smells like football, baby.
What's up, guys? Welcome into the Fantasy Football Smackdown. I'm your host, Kyle August. You can follow me on Twitter at KyleMonth8, and you're checking out Waiver Wire Sniping Week 3. That's right, Week 3. If you're new to this strategy, if you're new to this show, welcome aboard. Waiver Wire Sniping is simply that, man. Sniping the waiver wire 1 week ahead of time, at least, ahead of all of your league mates, ahead of all that content that gets dropped every single week, including right here on the Fantasy Football Smackdown, where everyone's highlighting all the waiver ads that you need to make. But I'm looking at least 1 week ahead for you guys, so you can add these guys before kickoff, be ahead of week 2 for free. So they're already on your lineup. You don't need to spend your waiver priority. You don't need to spend your fab. You can add these guys right now. And if they don't hit, or if you don't need them, you can just cut them. But appreciate you guys checking out this show. This is YouTube only, so you're in the right spot. And man, it's been a busy week here on the Warzone Network. So I appreciate you guys tuning into this one. So we're just gonna dive right into it. Let's just do this thing, man. We got the quarterbacks here off the bat, and this man, his photo has not moved. He was featured last week on Waiver Wire Sniping and on the Tuesday show, covering the waiver wire ads, and he's still only 37% owned. It's Ben Roethlisberger. Great week 2 matchup against the Raiders. Love him as a week 2 start, but for week 3, he has another home matchup against the Cincinnati Bengals. So Ben Roethlisberger is my top streamer of the week. If you're kind of a streamer anyway, and maybe, between Ben and your current guy, it's close, double check your week 3 matchups, man, because sometimes it's like, hey, don't screw future you because you're too focused on what's in front of you. As an example for me, I had Kirk Cousins on 2 teams, and Roethlisberger was on the waivers. And I like them both very closely this week. They're pretty much back-to-back in my rankings, but I like Ben's week 3 matchup better. So I went ahead and made that swap. So Ben Roethlisberger is my number 1 streamer at QB on heading into week 3 as of right now. Number 2, available in almost everywhere, man. He's only 15% owned. Sam Darnold, week 3 matchup against the Houston Texans. It is on the road, but I think this is one where Sam Darnold's going to get you 2+ touchdowns and can definitely stream for week 3. And number 3 on my QB list is Teddy Bridgewater. Similar to Ben, he could be a 2-week streamer for you. He has a great week 2 matchup against the Jacksonville Jags. Week 3, he's going up against the Jets at home, and Teddy's only 16% owned. I give Darnold a slight edge over Bridgewater for week 3 only, but again, you could factor in Bridgewater's week 2 matchup here tomorrow. So with that all being said, Ben is probably, as of right now, going to be my number 1 QB ad on the week 3 waiver wire show. But week 2, that could be ahead of Darnold and Bridgewater, it could be Daniel Jones. I don't want to overreact too much. He had a great Thursday night game, but his week 3 matchup is against Atlanta Falcons, baby, and that is a putrid defense. Jones is only 19% owned as of right now. So he doesn't qualify to be in this show as far as the strategy and adding these guys for free ahead of kickoff because the Giants already played. So he's locked. You can't pick him up. But he's going to be featured on a lot of waiver wire shows. But if you want to, if you got an extra bench spot, you're streaming a quarterback, these are your guys: Roethlisberger, Darnold, and Bridgewater for me. 2 stashes at QB. Justin Fields, 51% owned. Usually my threshold for this and the waiver show is 50%. Fields is at 51, but it's definitely worth stashing if you're a streamer. Maybe you can get out of the streaming game once Fields is named the starter. And Trey Lance. Lance's ownership actually dipped 5% this last week. Now, I know Fields seems to have a little bit more clearer path because people have less faith in Andy Dalton than Jimmy G. But Trey Lance is still a guy that I'm stashing. And if he's available and you're starting guys named Bridgewater, Darnold, or Roethlisberger, you need to be stashing Trey Lance or Justin Fields if they're available. Moving on to the running backs, James White is at the top of the board, 40% owned. Half PPR, he needs to be owned. This is an offense that I think is going to be more traditional with Mac Jones under center, and James White is the passing downs back. He's also in a backfield that just saw 2 young running backs put the ball on the turf last week. So does James White maybe see 4 to 6 carries on a top of 5 catches a game? That'd be awesome. Give me that. James White, 40% owned, number 1 running back stash. Number 2, he's right at that threshold, 51%, but it's Michael Carter. Ownership dipped 10% this week. I don't know what changed in a week. We knew that this was going to be slow going. Maybe it's a committee all year long, but I'm still fine taking the shot on the upside of Michael Carter at 51% owned. If he was dropped, if he is available, he should be stashed for you. Number 3 on this list, Kenneth Gainwell, the number 2 running back last week, far and away for the Philadelphia Eagles. Gainwell is only 35% owned and should be on your roster. He is ahead of Boston Scott already right out of the gate, and an interesting young prospect. Tony Jones Jr., he's the running downs back for the Saints. He's 24% owned. I don't think there's a ton of upside as there could be like with a Gainwell or Carter, but Jones is a guy that you can stash. Come bye weeks, you might just be looking for a running back that can get you 10 to 12 touches, and I think that's pretty secure with Tony Jones Jr. Number 5 on this list is Wayne Gallman, 4% owned. He was inactive week 1, but I'm not fretting about that yet. He was a late addition to the Falcons roster, and I think he could be active as soon as this week 2. And when that happens, I wouldn't be surprised if he takes that job over. Talked about him a lot on this show. He's only 4% owned. He needs to be stashed if you're looking for an extreme upside stash. I think he could have more upside than all of these guys that I've talked about already, and he's only 4% owned. Obviously, he has kind of the lowest floor right now as well if you're looking for some production out of the gate. But number 5 would be Wayne Gallman. And number 6, this is a secret stash. If you have an IR spot for sure, there is no reason in hell that Jeff Wilson should be available. You just saw everybody and their mother running to the waiver wire to add Elijah Mitchell and spending all of their fab. With Mostert on the IR now for the rest of the year, is that I think that Jeff Wilson, now you don't want to put him burning a bench spot for me for the next 6 weeks. He won't be back till November. But when he does return, I'm not sure he just won't be the guy. So if you have a nice IR spot, Jeff Wilson, 13% owned, get him on your team. Deep league stashes. These are both potential backup handcuff options. Alex Collins for the Seattle Seahawks, 1% owned. Samaje Perine, 1% owned, Cincinnati Bengals. He was the number 2 back for Cincy in week 1. So those are 2 guys that I'm looking to get ahead of the curve on. Just put it on the end of your roster, see if they hit. Cut them on Tuesday if you need. Wide receivers, Tim Patrick. He was one of my favorite receiver ads this week on the wire, and he's still only 22% owned. He's your guy. I think he's going to be the most consistent and can be a wide receiver 3 for fantasy owners while Jerry Jeudy is out. Number 2 is Darnell Mooney, played 100% of the snaps. He's owned in 46% of leagues. I think better days ahead for him. If people are giving up on him already, you can stash him. Elijah Moore, tough matchups the next 2 weeks, probably not playable, but at this time of the year, you're not. Hopefully you can just rely on your starters. You don't need to be plugging in depth guys into your starting lineup. And Moore is a guy I definitely want to make sure is on my team for down the stretch. He's 33% owned. Tyrell Williams, this could be an IR stash as well. He's 29% owned. I think he's the receiver to own for the Detroit Lions. He could be out this week due to concussion. As recording this, that's not been official yet. They play on Monday night, but I think he's the wide receiver to own for the Lions. And number 5 is Zach Pascal. We saw Pittman and Paris Campbell both end up on the injury report this week, but regardless, I think Pascal's the number 2 wide receiver there when everyone's healthy. Until T.Y. Hilton gets back, Pascal's 13% owned. Rashad Bateman, injury stash. If you have an IR spot, there's no reason he should not be there. 13% owned. And deeper leagues, Allen Lazard, Cedric Wilson. Lazard, 2% owned. We're going to get a good look at him on Monday night. I think he's the number 2 receiver in Green Bay. And Cedric Wilson filling in for Michael Gallup, at least for the next month. Moving on to the tight ends, the streamers. Cole Kmet, 39% owned at Cleveland next week. I like his upside as a streamer for week 2 and week 3, so I'm going to get him on my roster if he's not already. Same thing with Jared Cook. He's also 39% owned, very close with these 2 guys. Cook has Kansas City next week, so Dallas and Kansas City for the Chargers. They're going to have to put up some points. Jared Cook could be the benefactor of that. And then number 3, a little bit deeper flyer here, but Blake Jarwin, 12% owned. With the injury to Michael Gallup, he could see an uptick in work to only 12% owned. And the stash for me is Adam Troutman, 10% owned. I know he didn't get the touchdowns, but he had the snaps, he had the routes. I think better days ahead for Adam Troutman in 2021. So with that, there's your list. Waiver wire sniping in the books. Appreciate you checking out this show. We have not only the Sunday show tomorrow. So if you're watching this on YouTube, come back 90 minutes before kickoff. Memphis, a lot of the Warzone guys, network guys are going to be on there. I'll be on there covering some of your questions, your last minute start sits, the breaking news, the inactives, all that good stuff. And then after week 2, another great week of content. And I'll be back here with the Fantasy Football Smackdown on Tuesday with the Waiver Wire show. And then on Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern time with the start sits ahead of Thursday Night Football. So with that, I'll catch you guys later. Take it easy.